Hello, everybody, and welcome to something new that we're trying at Nova Pioneer Pulse-Off. This is our parent instructional evening talk on bullying. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to get straight onto it, and I'm just going to quickly go and share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm going to be talking about, and let's go. So bullying, what is it, what it isn't, and what to do if your child is being bullied. So there are different elements to this conversation on bullying. The first one is that there is something called conflict, peer conflict, that happens where children fight with each other. There's also bullying, which is far more dangerous, and in fact, they say that 30% of children these days are involved in bullying in some sort, whether they're the bully or they are being bullied. And there is a group of children that also bully as well as get bullied. So let's have a look at this. Let's peel back the layers and let's first start talking about the difference between conflict and bullying. So as a mom myself, I find this very helpful to understand. So when our children come home and they tell us things, we're able to know which category we're looking at. So firstly, conflict. In a conflict situation, both children are emotional and upset. So they've had an argument, they've disagreed on something, and neither child is happy with the situation. The power difference between conflict and bullying is significant. So in a conflict situation, there is a balance of power. It is equal power. They are children that are in the same class, in the same social groups, spend time together, and it isn't one child that is dominant over the other. Next, even though there is a disagreement and there's a fight and there's probably tears, ultimately conflict is more respectful than bullying. There has been more respect shown between the children. In a conflict situation, there is remorse. So the child that has upset their friend or shouted at their friend or even hit their friend in a conflict is remorseful and is sorry for what they've done. They want to take responsibility for their actions because they want a resolution. In a conflict situation, the children want it to be resolved because they want to just move on and carry on playing, because usually it's the playing that leads to the conflict, right? So children want to resolve it. They want to move on. They're sorry for what they've done, and they want to be able to get on with the fun. Conflict also doesn't make you feel bad for who you are. Conflict doesn't pick at the essence of who a child is or who you are, and it doesn't pick on children for things that they cannot control. Conflict is occasional, so it happens from time to time, and it is not emotionally damaging. Conflict may be emotionally upsetting, and we will have to equip children and empower them on what to do in conflict situations, but it doesn't break them down emotionally. If anything, if you as a parent or as a teacher handle conflict correctly, it can actually be emotionally empowering. So let's talk about bullying. Bullying is deliberate. It is an intentional hurting of somebody else. There is an imbalance of power, so an older child against a younger child, or a very socially popular child against a child that is not so popular in terms of social dynamics. The power is not equal or shared. It also targets the same people with the intent to harm. So it's not a child having a conflict with Johnny today and Tando tomorrow, but it is the same group getting picked on or getting targeted with that intent to harm, humiliate, and embarrass. Bullying is also ongoing. So it's not they're friends today and they're fighting tomorrow, but it is the status of the relationship. There's also no desire to resolve the situation in a bullying situation because there is actually no existing relationship. So bullying often happens when there isn't an existing relationship and the relationship actually becomes about that imbalance of power. The goal of bullying is to hurt, humiliate, and threaten. It is not children losing control of their emotions and acting inappropriately. The purpose of the whole thing is to hurt, humiliate, and to threaten. And there's also very little remorse in a bullying situation. The child that is bullying another child doesn't really want the resolution, isn't really sorry, kind of looks at you like, so what you going to do about it? These are key factors in identifying what is bullying. Which brings us to a next question, is being unkind the same as bullying? And the answer to that very simply is no. Children are learning how to socialize. They are learning how to be good friends. They're also learning how to regulate their emotions, how to get on, how to say things in a right way. So being unkind to someone doesn't mean that they're bullying. What we need to do as adults is we need to model for them kindness, showing them how to be kind, how to say things in a kind way. We need to model conflict resolution. They need to see us resolving conflict so that they know how to do it themselves. We need to also model inclusion. So when they see difference, they don't see it as a threat or as a bad thing. Difference is normal and it won't be an issue. We also need to model taking responsibility for our actions. So children need to learn that when they are unkind and they do say something inappropriate, they need to take responsibility for that. Before we take an action and we label it as bullying, we need to be very careful that the child isn't being unkind or it isn't a conflict situation. The key indicators of bullying is, number one, the balance of power. There is no balance of power, and the power lies with the bully. The second indicator in a bullying situation is that the cycle continues. It is ongoing, it is persistent. The third indicator for a bullying situation is the intent. The intent behind it is to harm, to scare, to break that person down. So while we're on that matter of talking about labeling and bullies, let's also discuss the matter of labels. So what we're doing today is we're not actually labeling children. We need to be very careful because labels are for jars, not for people. What we're doing is we're labeling specific behaviors. So we also need to make sure that we label those behaviors correctly. And why is this important, you may be wondering? Well, quite simple. If we take every unkind action or any conflict or classroom argument and we label it as bullying, we're in essence watering down what bullying is. And bullying is very, very serious. Not to say that your child getting called a horrible name isn't serious, but it is not bullying. It still needs to get dealt with. We still need to help the children learn from it. But if we're calling it bullying, the word bullying loses its meaning, it loses its power, and people stop paying attention. So, as much as it's not nice for someone to call your child a poo-poo head or the things that children say to each other, or tease them because they've got hair that's different, or maybe they're wearing glasses, if it is not meant to harm and it's just children being unkind and children being inappropriate, as sometimes they are, then how we handle it is different. So not to say we don't handle it if someone teases you because you've got, I don't know, stripy glasses, we still deal with it, but we label it accordingly. So I've given you some examples, but let's talk about what is not bullying. So firstly, negative thoughts. If a child is expressing negative thoughts, like the examples that I just gave, like, why are you wearing an ugly hat? Or why is your mommy fat? Those are not examples of bullying. Those are examples of children not having a filter and not knowing what things they should be expressing and shouldn't be expressing. So this is their self and social awareness that we need to be developing in them. Being left out is also not bullying. It's not fun, but it's not bullying, as long as it's not deliberate and intentional exclusion. So for example, if a child didn't get invited to a party, that is not bullying. What it is as a parent is an opportunity to teach your child that they don't have to be friends with everybody, and they don't have to invite everybody to their parties or be invited to everybody else's party. That it's okay to have friends and people that are acquaintances, but maybe necessarily aren't your friends. Conflict, as I've already discussed, is also not bullying. Children getting upset with each other and saying, I'm not your friend, is not bullying. But we need to teach children how to be good friends to each other and how to be kind. Good-natured teasing. Teasing is very much a part of our modern day culture. And as long as it is good-natured and everybody is getting a piece of the teasing pie and not just one child is getting teased, then that is not bullying. But there are a lot of rules around teasing. So for example, it needs to happen in your social group. It can't be people that are not in your social group. So when children have a group of friends and they have a shared experience, something funny happens, we might tease each other. For example, my son cannot handle the Dr. Pimple Popper videos. I love to tease him by calling him over to my phone and saying, hey, look at this. And then he freaks out. It's a lot of fun. Until the point that he looked at me one day and he said, Mommy, please respect my wishes. And at that point, I stopped. Because if somebody asks you to stop teasing them and you continue, then that is not good-natured teasing. Then it's branching into the department of bullying. Next, being a bossy boots. So if your child has a bossy friend who's always telling them what to do, controlling the games, telling them how to play the game, or they're always the mom and their child never gets to be the mom, that isn't bullying. What we need to do there is to empower your child to be assertive. So they don't allow their friend to be the bossy boots, and they learn to have a voice, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more just now. So now we've spoken about what bullying is, we've spoken about what is not bullying, but what do we do if your child is being bullied? What actions do you take? The first thing is to reach out. You want to contact the school. You want to set up an appointment with the head of school and you want to discuss it, but you want to discuss it face to face. Please don't pop it into an email, because something as vital, crucial, and emotional as bullying doesn't always come across in an email in the right tone. So sit with the head of school and discuss what you're finding and what you're seeing with them. See the school as an ally. Don't see the school as the perpetrators of the bullying or as condoning the bullying, but rather see them as a partner that you're going to have in helping your child with the situation. Be honest with the school about what is happening and be respectful. So please don't go into the office guns blazing, ready to fight and shout at the teachers and at the principal, but rather respectfully deal with it with them, because I can assure you, they too do not want your child to be bullied. Next piece of information is a tough one, but it's to not cloud the issue. Many people themselves, us as adults, have experienced bullying growing up. And that's the last thing. We know how it feels for our children. But please, when you're reaching out and you're connecting with the school on this, be careful to separate your own feelings about being bullied with your child being bullied. Because when you cloud the issue, you then lose your advocacy for your child. Come prepared and provide details. Come to that meeting with all the information that you can get, all the details, witnesses, where things happened, so that the school can take that information, investigate, and actually put things into place to help your child constructively. Ask about next steps. Speak to the school about how they're going to support your child, what you can do to support your child. Is there somebody that your child can speak to unpack their feelings about what is happening? Is there a school counselor? Do you have a family counselor? Come up with that strategy with the school on how you're going to support your child. Then set a time to follow up. Connect with the school. Let them know how you're finding it at home. Ask them how they're finding it at school. Ask them what measures they've put in place. Follow up and keep that relationship going. Now, what can you do with your child? What strategies can you use to help protect your child from bullying and if they're being bullied? So firstly, teach your child assertiveness. Allow them to know that they can stand up for their rights, that they can, in any situation, calmly state their opinion. And you even do this at home when you're discussing what movie you're going to watch. For example, if you're going to watch something on Netflix, allow them to speak in that strong, calm voice, to be assertive and say, no, we've watched Minions 578,000 times. I think I'd like to watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs because we've only watched that 3 million times. So allow them that freedom of choice. Let them know that they also have a right to say no. So if you're going to the shop and they want to stay at home with dad while you're popping out to the shops, allow them that. If they normally stay at home and they want to come with, allow them as well to have that place where they can say, this is what I would like to do. And as long as you teach them to be assertive in a respectful way, there's not going to be any problem for them growing up or entering the school environment. The next thing is to facilitate friendships. All your child needs is one good friend. That friend that's going to be their emotional support, that's going to be their ally, that's going to speak up for them if they're not speaking up for themselves, that's going to be a shoulder to cry on when they're looking for a friend to lean on. Another thing is to then create shared experiences between the friends, between your child and their friends. Invite them for play dates, take them to the bike park, something they can do together, something that they can do beyond school, so they've got that deeper connection and that person that they can always come back to. Get them to join in activities with other children that have similar interests. So if they love dancing, take them for a dancing class. They'll meet other dancers and they will feel like, oh, there is a place for me here. This is where I'm comfortable. These are like-minded people. And then, very importantly, focus on quality friendships. Quality is far better than quantity. Your child does not need to be the most popular child in the school, but what they need is to be super popular with just a couple of children. So good friendships are better than many friendships. The next thing that you can do to help your child cope is to impart self-esteem into them. So children with a good sense of self-esteem and sense of self are better equipped to cope with bullying. They're also going to be a less likely target because a bully isn't going to go for a very confident child who is an advocate for themselves. So how do we impart self-esteem? Firstly, unconditional love. That your child knows that you love them no matter what. They don't earn your love through being amazing or being the fastest or being the funniest or being the brightest in the class. You love them. When they feel safe with that, they're going to be confident in their strengths and in their weaknesses. And on that note, identify strengths and weaknesses. See where they absolutely shine and see where they need support. And then don't ignore either. Develop their talents, encourage them in what they shine in, but then also develop their weaknesses. Hold them accountable to things where they need to grow, because we don't make our children have a good sense of self by making them think that they are the most perfect creations, even though we totally believe that. Children need to know that they are loved and they're amazing, including their strengths and their weaknesses. Then if another child comes and picks on them for a weakness, it's not going to bother them because their sense of self is not based on their perfection. It's also based on their imperfections. Then enhance your child's social skills. Teach them how to make new friends. Teach them how to be a friend. So teach them how to start a conversation, how to go up to a child at a birthday party and say, hi, what's your name? Teach them how to get chatty. Also, you can teach them how to ask people questions. A good way to get to know someone new is to ask them about themselves. Allow your child to learn to listen to people when they are talking about themselves. And so quickly, your child will learn how to make new friends. So, folks, that brings me to the end of this session where I've just been talking to you about bullying, what it is, what it isn't, what to do if your child is a victim of bullying. But we're not done, because I'd love you to join me now on the Facebook Live Q&A session where you're going to have a chance to ask me any questions and I'll hopefully be able to answer them. So thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in a minute.